Hi, it's Monday, it's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you today on the 6th of July by Ju Gosling and Julie Newman in our East London studios. And over to the West Midlands for some introductions and some audio description, and then we'll come back to East London and we'll do a bit more introduction and audio description and tell you what we've got on the show today.
Okay, so hi everybody. I am Robin Surgeonator, Business Director at Together 2012 and the artist known as Angry Fish. Today I am sporting lovely white silver hair with some dark lowlights, um, rimless silver armed glasses, clean shaven, sparkling, and I am wearing a black round neck t shirt with the name Pink Floyd across the emblazoned across the chest, and then the logo for the album Dark Side of the Moon, which is a prism with light going in one side and a rainbow coming out the other.
I am Josh Surgeonator. I'm one of the Together TV hosts and a doctoral research student. I have ever longer blonde hair as the weeks go on, and I'm wearing a rather bright red polo shirt that is an old work t-shirt because I am running out of clothes that I haven't worn before in my endeavour to not repeat the same clothes too close together on the show.
Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. Uh, Today, my hair is actually reasonably tidy. It's silver and gold, brushed back. I have dark rimmed glasses. I have a plain white t shirt.
Thank you. Sporting rather a lot of dog hairs, and of course, Julie is an artist and filmmaker in her own right as well. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. I have what we call a corona crop, very short red hennaed hair, courtesy of the dog's clippers. I have black framed glasses, black wrist braces, silver jewellery, and a white t shirt with a design on that says vinyl vibes. So I too am going back to the 20th century when we were playing vinyl and even albums like Pink Floyd, although I have to say, Robin, I was too cool for that. So before we get
Ah,
yes,
That
I know.
it's impossible. You can't be too cool for Dark Side of the Moon.
no.
Well, I'm prepared to give it another go now. But at the time,
That has to be one of the classic LPs of all time. I mean, it is absolutely iconic. It's what you cannot say that, Jew.
okay, so we're going to move on swiftly and we'll put a Spotify
It's
link
three against one.
on our highlights and links page. Each day we put up highlights and links of everything we've discussed on the show and the videos we've shown. You can find the highlights and links page just underneath the Together Unlocked page on our website www.together2012.org.uk. All of this is being done as part of our Join In From Home programme, and we will be talking more about that shortly. We also have a guest coming up at 3:10, Justine Broussard, who's going to talk about the new Newham Broadcasting Channel. We're going to be talking about our new project, Charlie and the Sea Monsters, and discussing how to make films with still images and sound that you grab off the internet. We have a film from Steraplergia and much, much more. So do stay with us. We'll also be unlocking the mysteries of the lockdown changes. But first, how was your weekend? We talked on Friday about different things to do for the weekend as part of our regular spot, something for the weekend. So let's just have a bit of a report back. Do you want to start, Julie?
Sure. I mean, I've got a feeling Josh will pick this one up. But the recommencement of Formula One in Austria, I listened to it on the radio and I had a little laugh to myself because at one point I thought the commentators were being very cynical and actually quite rude, and saying, "Oh, you know, we've got the same circuit next weekend. It's going to be so boring." And then all hell, excuse my language, but all of a sudden it got very busy indeed, and that made it. Everybody was very excited. So now that everyone appears to be looking forward to next weekend's repeat. But Josh will talk about the details. It was also another lunar eclipse on Sunday morning over the UK. It was very, very early on. So as the sun was rising, the moon was setting and eclipsing at the same time. And that I think is going to be the last lunar eclipse until 2023. And Wimbledon continues today, but it's been lovely actually over the weekend looking at some of the films.
I should just add on the lunar eclipse, as somebody who spent the weekend working, that I stayed up working till 4 o'clock in the morning in order to be able to wake Julie up to see the lunar eclipse if it was clear enough. And it wasn't. So Julie slept on and watched it on YouTube later when she woke up. And I went to bed. But that was my experience of what was known as, why is it called penumbral, Julie?
It's to do with the occlusion of the sun. It's another way of sort of saying how much of the sun is in shadow with the moon in front of it, whereas the other one was because it was a ring of fire.
Okie doke. So we're going to put a link on for the links page there, so you can see for yourselves and read a bit about it. How was the weekend in the West Midlands?
Yeah, I mean, we watched the Formula One as well. Yeah, I mean, there was kind of a bit kind of earlier in the race where, yeah, I mean, Mercedes were 8 seconds ahead of everybody else, and it was like, oh, this is going to be a bit dull. And then, yeah, it all kind of forgot it was in 2020 and went to 1960, and half the field retired or crashed or broke down, and lots of safety cars. And yeah, it turned into a kind of bit of a wacky, wild one. It was really exciting, kind of right down to the final lap. So that was quite nice. It was worth the extra wait, I guess. Kind of. It was would have been a shame if it had been a bit of a dull one. Didn't really watch much of Wimbledon, just because we were busy doing other things and watching films and things. Do you want to jump in with what you did?
Yeah, it's all right. I've just realised that I need to send you a message in host chat, but I can't actually reach my laptop. I'm sitting here going, oh, what do I do? It's not on the site. It's only on YouTube. I think that's what the production office said. Is that correct, Josh?
Yes, no picture on the site.
So in terms of the, sorry, yeah, I'll have to think about this now. But in terms of the weekend, well, as you know, I left early on Friday to go to a swimming meeting, which was inglorious probably, but at the same there were snippets of really, really useful stuff. And then I spent a lot of the weekend preparing paperwork and responses to questionnaires and planning how many people can swim in a certain amount of space when we are allowed in the pool. So I didn't actually, well, apart from the Grand Prix, which I loved. I mean, Josh is much more of a factotum than me and watches it and takes in all of the details, whereas I just like the racing. I get a bit bored with all the chat around it. But no, it was good. I mean, I'm trying to think what else I watched. Lots of news, I'm afraid. Voltron, obviously, with Emily. Emily is educating me to the ways of Voltron, which, for those of you who don't know, is
it's a remake of the original
cartoon
from the 80s.
Well, it's a cartoon about lots of spaceships that are actually lions and fly in the space,
and then form one giant robot called Voltron. It's great.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean, otherwise, I mean, I checked out some of the football as well, but yeah, I wasn't really in a TV mood at all this weekend. I carried on streaming some stuff off from Glastonbury, and then yesterday I was doing a workout and I put on another not very cool album, which is Dire Straits. I can't think what it's called now. The one with Telegraph Road on it, anyway.
Before we get back into I think as it's 3:10, we'll
Brothers in arms.
rapidly bring in guests. Julie's talking about brothers this and brothers that, but I promise you they will research it and we will put this onto the highlights and links page. Apologies to anybody who's been trying to get onto this show from the website. I'm not quite sure what happened. I have reinstated the code again and I hope it's working now, but if not, our fantastic production manager Tracy Surgeonator will let us know. In the meantime, Newham, as you know, is a very creative place. Lots of us doing very creative things. And we now have, I think as of last week or the week before, but Justine will tell us our own YouTube channel, especially to highlight everybody's creativity and not just the creativity of disabled people. So I'm going to bring on Justine. And Robin, I'm going to put you on video off and sound only. Can you still hear us, Robin? Great. Hi, Justine. So welcome. I'm going to hand straight over to you to explain a bit more about the project.
Hi, hello. So I'm Justine. I'm really pleased to be on your program today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm wearing a black shirt which has some sort of dandelions figures on it, like little images. And I also have a really big headset which I bought really quickly a few months ago, never thinking I would need it so much, having all my meetings online. So my ears get really hot, so bear with me. But this is not what I'm coming here to talk about. I work for an arts organization called Up Projects, and we have been commissioned by Newham Council to put together a new broadcast, which is called the Newham Unlocked Community Broadcasts. And it's a temporary platform that indeed started a couple of weeks ago and is going to be live until the middle of August. And the idea is to bring together people from all around Newham who have been creative during lockdown and have been using their creativity to really get through these tough times. And I really liked your tagline of stay home, stay creative, stay well, because that's exactly the message of the Newham Unlocked Community Broadcasts. And so what we will be doing over the next few weeks is bring together as many creative videos as possible sent to us by people from around the borough, which will be released every Thursday. And we want to show creativity in all its forms. So whether you, I don't know, throw pots, or you've been sewing or mending your clothes, or if you have been singing in a group online, or if you have been singing on your own or dancing, even if you're gardening or baking, we're interested. You're creative and you're inspiring. And I've had the chance to see quite a few of your videos already that have been shown on this channel, and they're absolutely fantastic. So please, please, please do submit your videos to Newham Unlocked Community Broadcast, and I know that Ju is going to share the link after this, and we look forward to showing your creativity even further. And indeed, it's for everyone. It's for everyone.
That's great, Justine. Do you want to tell us about some of the things that you'll be showing this week?
Yes. So each week we will be showing. Each week we will have a different host. So what we wanted is to make sure that there is someone to guide us through the journey each week. So we've been working with 6 different creative people from Newham. And this week we will be having the first broadcast where there is a host and then community content shown. And this week it's Jade Hackett, who is an artistic director and choreographer. She's fantastic. And so she will be talking about her relationship to creativity and how important it has been to her, especially in the context of Black Lives Matter. And she will be talking with a fantastic singer who has created a song about Windrush and how it's impacted her family. But there's going to be loads of different content as well. And the following week, next week, we will be meeting Wasim Khan, who is an author from Newham as well. And so he will be talking about his process, but from the perspective of a writer. And we're going to be showing some of your videos as well, actually, already next week.
That's great, Justine. And what time is it?
So the broadcasts get released every Thursday. So usually in the afternoon, but there is no specific time. It's always available to see on the website. So if you go on the website, so newhamunlockedbroadcast.org, or if you check out the Newham London channels on social media, you'll be able to see the latest broadcast.
And can you also get to it directly from YouTube?
Yes, on the Newham Council YouTube. So it's Newham London.
Brilliant.
And so last but not least, we will be accepting videos until the 6th of August to be part of this series. But please do send as early as you can, because we review them every day to try and include them in the next broadcast.
That's great. Thanks, Justin. So we're going to have all of that information on the Together Unlocked highlights and links page about Newham Unlocked. And this won't be the last time that we mention it. We're also going to put a link in from our website. So if you're going to send us videos, why not think about sending them straight to Justine as well, and cut out the middle woman. I know you've got to get off to a meeting about the broadcast, Justine. So we'll say bye and thank you. But I know we'll be hearing much, much more about Newham Unlocked.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well, that sounds really exciting, doesn't it?
It does. I think we're a hub of creativity, but we are facing quite a lot of problems that perhaps are not being faced by other areas in terms of not just the level of infection that we've had, but the difficulties in stamping it out. And that's really, I think, timely to come on and talk about the changes to the lockdown, which I think it's true to say are going to mean much more to people in some areas than others. Julie, you said you still didn't really understand the government's letters.
No, not really. I know that I'm supposed to be allowed out, and I'm supposed to be allowed to meet 6 people, but I don't think I'm allowed to meet them in my home, and I don't think I'm allowed to meet them in close proximity. So I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to meet people out and about. I'm not sure actually that I want to, because who are these 6 people? You know, sort of like, I don't want to be going up to 6 random strangers.
There's a big bowl of short straws.
That's right. I mean, who are these people?
Yes, so as usual, going back to our own communications, if you're on the government's shielding list, you are now allowed to meet outdoors with up to 6 other people who can be from different households or can all be members of your family. But you are supposed to socially distance, which means 2 meters, not 1 meter plus. If that means going through smaller spaces to get to that outdoor space, then you have to take all of the precautions with this 1 meter plus, meaning you should wear a mask, you should sanitize your hands, and so on and so forth. The reason I don't think it means much to us is it's very hard to think about how we could safely get to this space where we could meet people and how we could manage as people with limited mobility to avoid other people if they choose to come up to us, which I think is always an issue if you've got really limited mobility. And you know, you could be a wheelchair user and very, very nippy, but I'm not one of those people. And you know, life has just taught me that you can be sort of grabbed and indeed assaulted and forcibly kissed and all sorts of things when you're out and about as a wheelchair user. So that doesn't make me feel any safer now. However, if I lived somewhere where there hadn't been any COVID infection and I could open my front door and go down a relatively empty street and sit in the park, I would already be there probably now. So I think, as always, it really has to come down to common sense. But ultimately, for all of us, it is still about staying home, staying creative, and staying well. It looks likely that the rate is rising again in London. It's certainly rising in other places than just Leicester. This social distancing is going to go on for a very long time to come, at least in England, because of course, if you're in Scotland, you've had no new infections reported, although that's not the same thing at all as no new infections for the last 2 days. And I believe the number of deaths has really tailed off, which is obviously not very good news for the relatives of the people who are still sick, but good news for everybody else. But certainly in East London, we're going to be distancing and taking extreme precautions for quite a long time to come. How have you taken the relaxation, such as it is, Robin?
Well, I think I mean, we still haven't really been out. And I think we said Friday we went to a hospital appointment. Um, I guess the couple of times that I went out with Emily and we very, very carefully went on a push just for a bit of fresh air. Um, but everybody we encountered were very observant of the space that they needed from us or we needed from them. And as we were wheelchair users on the pavement, they would step into a driveway or and it was it was kind of really observed. And I would worry actually over the next few weeks that people are going to be less observant or just assume that because you're out, if you choose to go out, um, that that well you're okay and they can just be a meter from you. So it's actually almost more of a dangerous period for those whose susceptibility to the infection is higher, and or the results of the infection are much more severe. um and yeah, and it's yeah, the good thing, we finally got a shop delivery from Asda. We've struggled to get one, but we did get one, um, and it did come in bags, which was really good. And the guy that delivered it put it all in the where I asked him to do. Thankfully, we have a vestibule porch, so we've got that little bit of space. But and there was a couple of things that had been put in loose, and he went and got another bag out the car, and he was masked and gloved and everything. So I mean, that's good. So they're still, certainly as of yesterday, we're still observing all the things that they should have been doing.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful. I mean, we were talking on Friday about the fact that deliveries have become more problematic in London as they've become less problematic in the West Midlands. And I think, again, it would be naive of the residents in a country which has got such a high level of infection to think that these bumpy kind of moments are going to stop. I think there's going to be shortages off and on, there's going to be problems off and on. We are in it for the long term, but so is Together Unlocked. We have a short video now from Staraplergia and Hannah Facey, and indeed Merlot the dog, that just shows the impact of lockdown on them, but also what they're doing to mitigate that impact.
Hi, I'm Stara, and that's Merlo the dog. And I'm Stara, and I made a painting of my friends. I'm meeting my friends on the computer. It makes me happy because I love them. Bye.
I love those guys as well. I just think
Yeah.
they're wonderful.
Yeah, I thought that was very, very sweet. And notice that the pictures that she's got of her friends are ones that she's cut out of a printout from Zoom. There are all sorts of ways we can still keep in touch with our friends. We don't have to negotiate this outdoor space and find 6 of them. But again, I can absolutely imagine if we were able to stay at Julie's, she's got off road parking, if we could get into our own car, drive somewhere, go through a back gate into a lovely big garden. My fantasy only breaks down when it's time to use the toilet, and then all the issues about infection control start.
A friend of mine organised some up in Sheffield just to go around and just kind of chill in her back garden, because she's got a big back garden. She's got a side gate you can all come through, but just wee before you get in because you're not allowed. I'm not going to let you come in, so you'll have to hold it, which I just thought was quite funny.
Yes, I mean, I thought the people I feel most sorry for are the people who've been shielding in wonderful seaside villages, who've been desperate to go out and now can't because of the tourists. But still, you can't have everything. Perhaps great British common sense wouldn't have opened the pubs yet, but there are all sorts of other considerations.
I mean, the thing is, and what we're just to close on it, is that lots of places, particularly that might have only 1 or 2 staff, for example, if somebody comes in I mean, we talked about this at swimming. You know, we only need to have one swimmer or parent turn up who then tests positive, and we have to shut the whole swimming club down for another 2 weeks straight off. There's just no question, and it will be interesting to see how kind of conscientious businesses are going to have, well, will be, whether they should, should be, but will be. You know, the hairdressers that's got 3 staff, they just open up, someone comes in, are they going to close again because someone came in who then tends to, potentially was positive whilst in the salon, for example?
I think it's very, very difficult. Together 2012 has officially decided we will be delivering all of our activities virtually until next spring. That doesn't just mean on the internet, of course. We have a phone based support and creative development program going on for 30 of our most regular participants in the club's activities. And we have a face to face via the internet program for young people and a range of other things. But it just seems that sense of being able to stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, and then stop because you're frightened is very, very disruptive. We're aware that lots of disabled people are still digitally excluded, but we feel now is the time to really push and support people to get online. Things are not going to go back to the way they were, and we all need to have access to the internet. So we will also be adding our campaigning voices to ask for free broadband, which I know the government is already considering. In the meantime, you can join in from home wherever you are and whoever you are, whether you're disabled or not, whether you're in the UK or not. We have a full program. We're going to show you a short video now to tell you a little bit about it, focusing on the kind of things that we would usually be doing on a Monday, which is film and photography club and various other things. So this is our Join In From Home program, which you can find on our website at www.together2012.org.uk. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home program from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. The dance club usually meets on the 4th Monday of each month, and they create improvised masked dance for the screen. Here you can also see their very first film, where they simply made masks from paper plates, covered themselves with fabric, and just moved gently to the music. You can hear as well there's an improvised soundtrack. So we're suggesting that you make a mask out of anything you can think of. It could be a cardboard box, a paper bag, a paper plate as in here. Video yourself dancing in it and then share the video with us. We will show it on screen and we will also enter it into the dance programme of our film festival, which we run every December. If you're temporarily or permanently chair-based, there's also a warm-up you can do here created by our associate wheelchair dance company Folk in Motion, and that focuses on relaxing your upper body and improving your breathing. The Photographers and Filmmakers Club usually meets on the 2nd Monday of each month. We're inviting you to make a video at home with the theme of home and share it with us. You can use a phone or a camera, make any kind of film you wish, including drama, documentary, dance, animation, artist films, comedy, and they'll be eligible for a CAT award at our December Film Festival. You can also watch with us from home. In addition to Together 2012 TV with Together Unlocked and other live streams, we have the Together Disability Film Festival highlights. Each year we run the International Together Disability Film Festival in Stratford, bringing together a wide range of films by disabled filmmakers, as well as films about disability issues and disabled people. We always publish the programmes online with links to the films that are freely available. So we invite you to revisit our recent film festivals from the comfort of your own home, and also to send us reviews of those films. And finally, you can sit back, relax, and enjoy videos of past live performances, artist talks, and creative workshops that we've produced in the past here. So, for example, from past festivals, we have documentation and films of creative dance workshops, street art performances, dances that the dance club have created, dance performances, and of course, we're continuing to add new activities on a regular basis. And now we're going to talk about one of those activities, which is filmmaking. And we're also going to tell you in the process about a new film that we launched this morning as part of a broader project called Charlie and the Sea Monsters. Charlie and the Sea Monsters is based on a story that I have to confess I wrote. It has been brought to life by the very wonderful Hannah Ensor of Stickman Communications Limited. It's an A4 16-page comic and DIY colouring book that you can download from our website, print out, and read and colour as you wish. It's a project that's published as a Creative Commons project, and this means that absolutely anybody is welcome to copy it, print it, do anything you like with it, including selling it, as long as you're not making a profit. It is there to explain without words, finally, how coronavirus COVID-19 is spread and how it is prevented. Everything from the start has really been based on an assumption that everybody can read English and everybody has done science at GCSE and remembers it well. But for all of those of us who do not fall into that category, we wanted to create something that cut across barriers around language and disability and just produced something that was clear but also interesting. We are going to stream Charlie and the Sea Monsters for the first time at the end of this show. So that is coming up about 10 to 4. We've created an animation to make it a little bit more accessible and added a soundtrack and also some audio description for people who are visually impaired. It's just over 6 minutes and we'll be playing that animation later. You can go to our website www.together2012.org.uk and just click on Charlie and the Sea Monsters, or you can go to charlieandtheseamonsters.com, which effectively takes you exactly the same place. Julie, you were also making a film last week about Wimbledon, and we used very, very similar techniques for the two. So, just to explain very briefly, and then I'm going to hand over to Julie. Of the 16 pages in the comic, there are 40 images, 40 frames. And we took those 40 frames and we showed them one by one. And I put a soundtrack to it. And that effectively is the whole film. And although there's still pictures, it comes across, I think, as if it's got lots of movement because there's lots of movement in the pictures. And that's very similar to the slideshow you've made of your memories of Wimbledon with the photos that you've taken. And I know you found a wonderful new app. So I don't know where you want to start, probably with the actual technique rather than the app, but do tell us about both.
I will actually talk about the app first, for a very simple reason. Is because I've done 2 films in iMovie, basically turning still photographs into films. One was about Broadstairs Folk Festival a few years ago, and the other one is this Wimbledon business. I don't like iMovie very much, and I know a lot of disabled people use it and really, really like it. but I wanted something that was going to be a bit easier for me. I was trained in Final Cut Pro, and maybe that's where my difficulty with iMovie comes from, because it doesn't do what I want it to do. But I found an app. My friend Tony Malone recommended it for me, and it's called Splice, Splice, and it's a GoPro app. And the magical thing about it is you don't have to be using GoPro footage or GoPro photographs. It will actually accept media from other sources. So I thought, well, okay, I'll try it out. And so at lunchtime today, I tried it out, and I really liked it. In 10 minutes, I'd made a little film, a 1 minute, 23-second film, which blew my mind. It's very, very intuitive. It's very easy to work. I didn't have to go through any of the YouTube "how do I do it" things, and it allows me to add music, for example. It's got a whole library of music that I can use, so I don't have to worry about copyright. But also, if I wanted to use, for example, as you put me onto it, Ju, earlier over the weekend, the BBC Sound Archive, if I wanted to import something from that, that wouldn't actually pose a problem. I think now the test is going to come, as it did indeed with the Wimbledon film, and how do I post it? How do I send it across to Ju? Does it upload easily? I spent an awful lot of time last week trying to upload the Wimbledon film. Well, it's actually a slideshow, isn't it? Let's be honest. But I tried to upload it, and it was just, that's where everything fell down drastically. I was very interested when you told us about the BBC Sound Archive. Can you just give us a quick description?
Yes, I mean, we've picked up this kind of film technique before, some probably months ago, actually, in the context of poetry film. And I talked there about recording the poem as a soundtrack, but then grabbing pictures off the internet to make up as images and effectively, like you say, running them as a slideshow. But if it's timed properly and the content's right and the pictures are right, then I think it is more than a slideshow. I think it is like an animated comic, it is more like a film. So for Charlie and the Sea Monsters, I used 2 free sound sample sources, and one of them was the BBC Sound Effects Library. We'll put that up on the highlights and links page. Those sounds are absolutely free as long as you're not going to use them commercially. But if it's for research, it's for education, it's for personal use, that's absolutely fine. There's also an archive that I've used before called Free Sounds. And people who just enjoy making sounds upload those sounds and allow you to use them for nothing. I have used a couple of paid for libraries within that. And interestingly enough, although I think as we're all 4 wheelchair users on the virtual sofa, we're not terribly surprised. The only wheelchair sound I could find was in a paid library. There was, the BBC apparently in all these years have never needed the sound effect of a wheelchair, and neither's anybody else. I was quite intrigued when I was getting samples up about things like empty office chairs being dragged across concrete, because it was kind of hard to know why you'd want one of those. Thank you for turning your phone off, Robin.
Yeah, I need to call you back in 20 minutes. Bye. Sorry.
Oh, that silent button just doesn't work.
You do realise
does it?
many years ago they invented something called answer phone.
Yeah, it's on.
Now, I'm not going to get diverted from the filmmaking, but you can have that discussion with Julie, because if anybody's tried to phone Julie, she just doesn't do answer phones. And no, I don't want to know why. Carry on.
It's like the house phone will go now. It'll be the same person. My phone's turned off, but it came through on the computer.
Aha.
Yes, I absolutely hate that. I keep trying to turn, for anybody who isn't plagued with using Mac technology, Mac thinks all of your devices want to talk to each other, even if they're owned by in some cases personally, and then the company. So if they can't get through on the phone, they just play a sound on the computer. There is a way of switching it off, but you have to keep doing it and doing it. So now I'm diverted. Let's go back to making animated videos, stroke slideshows. Have you used any sound libraries before?
No, have I? No, I found for the Broadstairs film. I found a track which I really liked on Amazon Music, and I bought it. So I just used it, and I haven't been copyrighted. Sort of like exclamation marked on it. So I think it must have been out of copyright. I do actually to try and avoid that. I've got a selection of 78 records, which I built up over about 30-40 years. But working on the principle that they're they're out of copyright.
We also work on the principle that you've got to be able to get to them, play them on a turntable, record them off again, and then reformat them. The other way to do it is again, there are plenty of sound libraries with free music, or you might end up paying a very small amount per sample, and they're very straightforward. They just ask you to type something in, and then you can play the sounds there and then on the website, and in one click, if you want it, you can download it. I was very taken by the fact that in one scene in Charlie and the Sea Monsters, Charlie spits because, disgusting habit though it is, that is one of the ways that coronavirus is being spread. I had such a choice of spit sound effects, you can't begin to believe it, but only one wheelchair. There you go. So it all depends on what you're looking for. If you want, I don't know, aliens exploding or the kind of other things teenage boys are interested in, then there's quite a lot of choice of that as well. But it is such a big resource. If you have access to the internet and you have access to anything that you can put these things together with, your app, you were using that on the iPad, weren't you? So you clearly don't need a computer to run it. And I think
No.
more and more, of course, people are editing in their phones. Have you tried doing anything like that, Josh?
I don't have a huge amount of experience with kind of outside of kind of playing around with like GarageBand or Logic when I was younger. I know iMovie has a soundtrack, kind of sound effects, and a very small number of kind of backing tracks. That there's a kind of news one, and they're called like Bright and Modern and things like that. That are kind of 30-second to a minute, kind of free backing things. I think it's similar to the BBC Sounds one, but I've never used it. YouTube has a whole kind of royalty-free library. I think it's called kind of YouTube Creative Studio. If you have a YouTube account, you'll be able to find it, that has similar thing, kind of music and lots of things you can put to accompany videos that are kind of royalty-free. So there are no issues with kind of copyright and things like that, or fair use. But that's a whole other argument to get into on what constitutes fair use and having to deal with copyright claims. But yeah, the one thing that I have used, I was helping Emily with some school homework, and kind of like Julie was saying with the film that she made, where she just kind of had it. She was doing something for school, and she wanted a song in it. So she just recorded it. I mean, this is literally just for her homework to send to her teacher. So there's no kind of copyright issues. But using the kind of voice memos app on her phone, she just put it on, recorded it, and then just put that audio file straight into iMovie. Which obviously, if you're making anything to kind of commercial that you're going to put out, you couldn't necessarily do. But if it's just something you're making for yourself, or you want to make a little thing of your holiday photos to show your friends or whatever, or your school homework, in Emily's case, that's an option as well.
Well, like Julie was saying, there is a system where YouTube will put if YouTube thinks you're breaking a copyright, it will tell you. So, I mean, that can be helpful as well. Julie's desperate to come in here.
Well, there's two things I want to say. I want to be very, very clear now. It's not about trying to avoid playing performers' rights to having their music acknowledged. I think it's critical that we support musicians, that we support performers, and I think I want to make it very, very clear that I'm not trying to avoid that. It's just that if you don't have any money, then it's difficult to be able to find a source of music or accompaniment which doesn't encroach on those rights. There are performing rights that should be respected, and I really, really endorse that. I think the other thing which I wanted to pick up was something that you were just saying, Josh, about the times and things like that. One of the things that I was struck with Charlie and the Sea Monsters, Ju, was how you managed to time it. How did you manage to decide how long to give each frame? And did you give any frames any longer than the others, or was it a uniform throughout timing?
That's a really good question. And the short answer is no, they weren't uniform. And I think that's one of the things that makes it different to a slideshow. I haven't produced many slideshows, but when I have, they're generally not always. I think it is possible to change the time between, but usually they're uniform times with a uniform kind of gap in between, and it's very much kind of here's a slide, now here's a slide, and certainly if you turn it into a film, so it plays automatically. Some of it was about length of sound samples. Some of it was about how long it needed. It has it probably has thousands of edits in, and that's one of the things that makes it complicated, because when you do one edit, there's always a danger that everything else is going to go out of sync. So there are actually points where I would have snipped it tighter. I think it's 6 minutes 40 seconds. I reckon I could have got a good 10 seconds out of it, and in an ideal world more, but it would have just become too complicated, because it was only when you were playing it and kind of editing it for the millionth time that you thought, oh. And then of course it's tricky because you know the pictures well, so then you have to put yourself in the minds of the people who are seeing it for the first time. So I, particularly at the beginning, I've left longer for people to look at the images because they're less familiar, and then as the characters become more familiar and the action speeds up. But I was looking for guidance around slideshows, and they were looking at how many seconds it needs for somebody to absorb it and how many seconds before they get bored. Generally saying, if you were going to do a slideshow, and I think the same is true for a short film, 6 to 8 minutes is about people's limit. But I've always been of the opinion as a filmmaker that yes, you can take all of that on board, and you should, but actually the film has got to have what it's got in it. You can't miss the end, and some films just take longer than others. There's some interesting comments here from Blake Jarrett Gibbons, who says, I have made videos and slideshows through my phones. Most are cars and trains and transport, but that's from a passion. Are going to try those apps and websites. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for letting us know, Blake, and we would love to see some of those films shortly on this show.
For sure. I think, Blake, that would be great if you could send something in. I think that would find that very, very interesting. I think with regards to the length of films, I think one of the difficulties I have is being able, if I'm using my own work, if I'm using my own images, trying to be brutal and cut out that which isn't necessary. And what I find irritating with some short films that we've shown previous years in the Disability Film Festival is actually sometimes I think they've gone on for too long. And I think for me, an ideal time would be between 3 and 4 minutes. And I think that, that's what I try to work to. What I've got at the moment is I've got one of 1.24 seconds. and the other of 29 minutes and 15 seconds.
And in the meantime, I'm getting more and more into TikTok, where the ideal is 15 seconds. And you can 15, yes. And
Whoa.
is it 30 seconds or a minute that you can't go further
A
than,
minute.
Josh? I think it's a minute.
Mm.
But I find,
I'm not cool enough for TikTok. I'm too old.
well, I used to think that, but not anymore. But it's exactly the same principle. Even if it's 15 seconds, you can take still images and tell a story very effectively with or without sound. I mean, there's sound on Charlie and the Sea Monsters, but it's true to say that it's really there because Charlie and the Sea Monsters is a comic that you colour in. And that is not very accessible if you're visually impaired. Whereas if you hear the story, which we're going to hear, and in fact, what we're going to hear is the story with the soundtrack and a little bit of audio description. The film is available with and without the audio description, which is, like I say, pretty minimal. But the story it stands alone on the pictures. But I think sound always enhances it. We always talk about sound being 50%.
Yeah, and I think just as a final statement, really, or just a suggestion, not a statement, for goodness sake, who am I? As a suggestion, if you're interested in how to edit a film and creating something that's short but has a message, look at the adverts on the television. I love the adverts. I think they're so clever. But if you time them, look at the amount of cuts that are going into creating the final product, and I think you'll find it very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very old YouTube channel, and I haven't watched it in years, so I can't remember if they're any good. Called 5-second films, which are films that are 5 seconds. So if you can tell a story in 5 seconds, then yeah, there's plenty of time in 6 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever.
And I think that's the thing. It's just like theatre, every second counts. And if you can make it count, so much the better. Of course, this is not to say that you can't make your own sound effects very, very effectively. I think where the libraries are really useful, or if you're stuck because you can't make a sound, or you just need to work quickly. And in my case, I've needed to work quickly. And for my poetry films, I think it's true to say that lockdown has expanded my mind about what you can do without going out of the house. But prior to that, as somebody who needs support to leave the house, that very often isn't forthcoming, I've gone onto the internet to grab these images because I haven't had the option, if you like, of taking my video camera out and going out to shoot. But I don't in any way now see it as second best. And just finally, I recall from talking about the poetry films, there are also sites where that you can use photographs for free. And again, this is not about refusing to pay people, but it's just being realistic to say if you've got a completely unfunded, uncommercial project, it's jolly nice of photographers to say, well, give me a credit, but here is a massive range of photographs, really at least as wide as the sound effects, that creative people are welcome to turn into something different. So, on that very optimistic note, before we see Charlie and the Sea Monsters, we should tell you what's happening on Wednesday, which, as usual, is our pop up poetry day. So, we're very much looking forward to seeing any poems that you have to send in, whether that's on the subject of together, home, or anything else you want to write about. We will have our usual virtual gaming and sport with Josh. We will be racing our clockwork toys to see whose teddy bear can wear the gold medal this week. Julie's assistant's dog will be staggering outside if she can be bothered to show us, after last week's very unimpressive video, what's happening in the outside world. And looking forward to Friday, we have our usual dressing up to go out to stay in spot. Please send us your videos and photographs, and something for the weekend where we recommend all sorts of things you can do at the weekend without leaving your home. Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not really, other than to say, if you experiment with your photographs, assuming you've got digital photographs or could digitize them, It's a good way to learn, and you don't lose anything. And you might find that it becomes more interesting, and it opens the door to more complex filmmaking. There's nothing wrong in having something straightforward. I think it works very, very well frequently.
Brilliant. And I would just add, copy your photographs before you start editing them, and then you really won't lose anything. So on that happy note, I'm going to go to the West Midlands for some goodbyes, and then it'll be goodbye from us and Charlie and the Sea Monsters.
Yeah, no, it's some goodbye from us, and we look forward to retaining our title on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I just like to just one tiniest thing is the issue I always have with finding the right sound is knowing how to describe it, because that can be the issue, because you can say you want Bing and what you get is bong or whatever it is, so actually sometimes you think it's not there and it is, you just haven't asked for it in the way that it's been listed.
I think that's a really good point. I certainly asked for some things 2 or 3 times in different ways before I got the right one. So goodbye from us.
Bye.
Wednesday, and this is Charlie and the Sea Monsters.
Bye-bye, everybody.
In the city not far away, Charlie and the other residents were going about their business. Unaware that getting closer and closer, there was a strange monster. With a kiss, little monsters leapt off the big monster and started climbing into Charlie's mouth. Charlie carried on his way, talking into his phone. Unseen, little monsters come out of Charlie's mouth as he's speaking and fly into the face of the woman walking past. Charlie spits as he carries on. Little monsters play in the spit and jump onto a passing wheel. A wheelchair user pushes on unaware. Little monsters climb onto her hands from the wheels. Meanwhile, Charlie goes into the store. Little monsters are left on the handle of the door where he's pushed it open. Next, a little girl comes into the store. Her hands touch the same handle and the monsters jump onto her arm. As she touches her face, one climbs onto her nose. Charlie is in the store picking up tins from the shelf to have a closer look. When he puts them back, they're covered with little monsters. Charlie chats in the queue as he waits to pay, and little monsters fly out with every word. Outside, the little girl is playing ball with a friend. Little monsters climb from her hands onto the ball and climb onto the hands of the friend she's playing with. Meanwhile, Charlie gets onto the bus. He leaves little monsters behind where he touches the rail. The monsters climb onto the hands of the next person to get onto the bus. Back home, Charlie chats to a neighbour who's putting out her bin. And then has a chat with his next door neighbour. Back at home, the lady on the bus is washing her hands. And so is the child who was playing ball. And so is the wheelchair user, who's also scrubbing the wheels. In the soap bubbles, the monsters die. But other people Charlie met are now ill. And Charlie himself is very ill. And while her neighbour's still fine, she has lots of little monsters coming out of her whenever she speaks. And there are still monsters on the shop handle. And on the shop tins. And on the rail in the bus. But one of Charlie's friends is safe at home listening to the radio. And puts a mask on when they go out. And keeps as far away from other pedestrians as they can. And washes their hands when they get home, which kills the monsters. Story and sound, Ju 90. Artwork, Stickman Communications Limited. Together 2012. Creative Commons 2020.